Emily Elizabeth, and I'm the host of the What Fulfills You podcast, a show for and about individuals always seeking to be their best selves. On this show, we talk all about building the mindset, finding the right careers, creating meaningful relationships, and so much more. Welcome to the What Fulfills You podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the What Fulfills You podcast. My name is Emily Elizabeth. I'm your host, and as always, welcome if this is your first time tuning in. For today's short solo episode, I wanted to dive into a topic that I've experienced myself a lot in my personal life, and something that I've noticed a lot of people over the years have asked me for advice or input on, and more or less just how to get to this place of being willing and having the guts to do it. And if you can't tell by the title, it's going to be surrounding more or less how to go about doing things by yourself and feel more comfortable with doing so over time. And I want to preface by saying that this is not an overnight easy action, although maybe for extremely select few of you this could be the case, but in most cases it is inching towards it little by little. And for me, that goes all the way back to some point in college. I remember I started with going out to eating by myself. I went to True Food Kitchen in Newport Beach, California. It's also where I basically went to school, Orange County, and I did a little bit of everything. I remember, this is so not ideal, but I was 20 years old at the time, and I went to dinner because I really wanted True Food. They have really great food, very clean food. And I was sitting down, and I was actually FaceTiming my best friend from high school. And I was telling her, like, yo, I'm out at dinner by myself. Like, you know, this is my first time doing it, whatever. So we're just like chatting and catching up. And then I think I told her, like, I'm craving a wine. Should I just order it? And she's like, yeah, right? And, you know, again, not the greatest thing ever. I mean, I was turning 21 the next month. I think this was like January 2018. And I was like, hey, can I just order this glass of wine? And that's if I had my ID on me. And I said, I unfortunately don't, which I think actually was true. I didn't have any of my IDs on me. And they're like, okay, it's fine. You know, again, years ago, hopefully whoever worked there does not get in trouble. But yeah, just was turning 21 next month, was craving a little glass of wine, was eating by myself. And it's kind of fair to say, what are the odds of someone under 21 having the guts and maturity to go sit down and eat at a restaurant like that by themselves? So all that to say, that was kind of the beginning part of my journey of not waiting for other people and just wanted to go do it. And for me, that was something I think I ran into a lot in college, and this might be more pertaining for you guys after college. I think college is a little easier to cave to the social realm and what everyone else is doing, and that's totally understandable. I just had a lot of different ups and downs in college that forced me to get out of my shell a lot sooner. So one thing I really enjoyed by junior and senior year of college was, instead of going to bars and things like that, which, by the way, I definitely indulged in as a freshman and sophomore, but doing all of that, frat parties, everything, I wanted people to go to dinner with. I just wanted to go to dinner. I wanted to get dinner and drinks. I've always been into that. I love, you know, that chic, classy lifestyle. That's just me. A little bougie, whatever. And that's the thing, right? In college, it's hard to find friends that A, want to do that, and B, can have the flexible means to do that financially, which is all, once again, very understandable. So I had options of staying at home and not going, right? But then wishing I was there, or just fucking doing it. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. And I think down the road, it ended up opening doors to do similar things. I started taking weekend trips by myself, or day trips. I'd drive from Orange County, would go down to San Diego. I remember I felt really nervous because I didn't really know what I was doing, because I was by myself. It was really abnormal. I'm so used to doing things with a friend or two. And I just decided to just drive down and explore San Diego. I think I went to La Jolla. And it wasn't my first time there either, but just the experience of doing that in a day by myself was really, really different for me. So then that led to me having the guts to take a solo trip to Portland, Oregon. That was fall of my senior year of college. So that was like November 2019. I was 21 years old, super curious to go somewhere close to California, but still kind of required me to fly. And I went for 4 days and 3 nights. I stayed in kind of like a boutique hostel-ish hotel. And I kind of did a collaboration with them. That was also the early days of me being a content creator and being more serious about it. And so all of that is the foundation of how I'm in this position today, where I'm so encouraging of everyone in my own circle and those of you guys who listen to really, really try to get out of your comfort zone and go ahead and do things alone. And I want to say it's not always just about doing a solo trip or going to dinner by yourself, all of which I think are easy baby steps. But that being said, like there are other things you can also learn to just take the initiative on your own and go do it, even if it's something you feel like you wish you had a friend to do it with, right? That could be moving to a new city. That could be going to the movies to see the latest movie that you want to see, but maybe your friend doesn't care as much to go see. Maybe that's even going shopping, right? Like you're so used to going with a friend that you're uncomfortable to just head to the mall by yourself. That could be going to a cafe. That could be, like I said, getting lunch or dinner on your own. That could also be going back to a new sport or hobby that you either used to do or you want to try out, right? I have a friend of mine who listens to the show, mentioned her all the time, and she's someone that I would also say, yeah, pretty much is like the only friend I know is just as consistent and good at doing these things by herself. She actually inspires me half the time to do some of the stuff I've done in the past year. That includes the different recipes we've cooked on cooking nights. That includes, for Valentine's Day, she told me how she would bake a cake in the past 2 years. And like it would be like a heart shaped, and she would show me the past cakes. And no joke, I came home that night and ordered a bunch of like cooking stuff, like baking stuff for cakes on Amazon, and made a cake as well during Valentine's week, because like that just kind of inspired me to go do it. And she also got into tennis as a new hobby, and she does that with a friend. She also plays guitar, takes guitar lessons. And so she does all these things and indulges herself. And it's really funny because I've told her this so many times in person. I'm like, honestly, especially because we're in our 20s, it's for her, I can imagine like dating can be harder when you're so comfortable and confident and in yourself and you fill your own cup, because that is very high level in my opinion. And a lot of people actually don't do that as much as you might think, or her and I would talk and sometimes it's like, really, like we don't think it's that rare. But I feel like I'm lucky to be able to kind of see the spectrum of how people live their life in their 20s. And I tell her all the time, like I admire and respect how she just indulges herself in the things that she wants to enjoy. And of course, going with a friend is ideal, but she's never held back from going. And she's even gone to concerts by herself too, like all these different experiences. And I'm like, that's so cool, because I've never met someone my own age who actually has the balls to go and do these things on their own. But for her, it's very comfortable. And so I can't wait to see the day where she's dating someone that actually is like, oh wow, that's like so fascinating, and I share that because I'll tell you guys, especially as women, I think when you learn to do these things, it often leads to a level of comfort in solitude, which then impacts your level of self-confidence and comfort in being on your own and all of that. And a lot of people don't quite have that foundation prior to relationships. And so on the flip side, if you do have that foundation to some degree, even if it's not like fully, if you have that, there are times, at least in personal experience, where I run into men that were actually either confused or slightly intimidated by that level of comfort in solitude and self-confidence, because You know why? It raises the bar for them if it's a guy that's not ready to date a girl like that, right? That's going to intimidate them and often push them away. I've experienced this myself. I've seen this firsthand from other people. When a girl is at a certain level of consciousness and comfort, a guy that's not there knows that he must either raise the bar for himself or he will have to go date someone else that is more comfortable for him, right? Especially, those unhealthy dating patterns where people will select a partner that's maybe more insecure and that makes them feel more safe. You know those types of dating patterns? Yeah, like I've seen it all, attachment issues, all of it. And so doing these things as a guy or a girl, but especially as a girl, definitely has such an empowering ripple effect down the line. And I think that's something that many of us don't really consider doing once we get into our 9 to 5s or whatever, our working world and life. And when we're in a new city and everything, sometimes it's hard to actually reroute our life and design it in a way that's fulfilling to us. And even for my friend, her taking guitar lessons inspired me to get back into piano. And I bit the bullet last year and bought a piano, which I used to have in my LA apartment. And I got one again for my New York apartment. And in exchange, I sold my desk. I got rid of my desk in order to fit my piano in my studio apartment because I just found that more valuable and worth. And so all that to say, I think it's interesting because it's had a ripple effect on me, even as someone that loves to do these things. Sometimes I need just a hint of inspiration and I'm like, oh, that's something I could also add into my life. And I don't need to wait for a friend to get back into piano, or I don't need to wait for a friend to go to piano lesson with me. It's like, why not just dive into what fills Emily's cup? And I think sometimes that also takes a level of self-reflection, of figuring out what that is, because sometimes you're listening to this and you might not even know what those things are that fill your cup, right? And I say fill your cup as an individual, not just, okay, spending time with certain people and not just, the things that you already do, but what are some things that you used to do that you really enjoy, but you're kind of procrastinating on getting into? I have a friend that used to live in Nashville, and for her, same thing. She really misses playing soccer. She used to play soccer. She wants to join a league, but she just never got to it. She got so indulged in work, and she, I think, was procrastinating because it's a little scary, right? It's like, oh, I don't know. Should I do this? Should I not? My biggest take on that is you just got to do it without thinking. Like, right? Like when my friend was talking about making a cake, I was like, I came home, I bought those things on Amazon, bought the bowl that would mix the cake mix in. I bought the pans, everything. Like I bought that like right away. I didn't think about it. I didn't let it simmer in my head too much. Or the same thing, oh, should I solo travel? Should I not? Like, oh, like, weighing the pros and cons, all of it. Yes, for safety reasons too, it's important. But a lot of the decisions I've made when it comes to not waiting for other people, I just did it right away. Another great example is about 2 years ago, I really wanted to go see this artist, MK. He's a UK house DJ. For those of you who are also into house music the way I am, you probably have heard of MK. And it's a very specific type of bass and BPM, which is beats per minute. And I remember I was on the way home from being out at the bar lounge, and I was heading home around, I think this is around 1 a.m. And I had it in the back of my mind that I really wanted to go see MK because I knew he was in New York and he was performing at this nightclub venue. Didn't have anyone to go with me, but was definitely very curious about going to see him. But I already had directed the Uber to my home address. Halfway through, I'm like still thinking about it. I can't get it out of my head. And I literally said, fuck it. Change the address. The Uber's like, oh, are we going back uptown? I'm like, yeah, we're going back uptown. So he turns around and he takes me to the venue, which is what I put into the Uber address. That was my first time going to a nightclub by myself. Again, at that point I have been to like lounges and all that by myself, but my first time going to like a real nightclub on my own, and it changed the trajectory of a lot of things because once again, I was like thrilled, so happy to be there. I loved his performance. I loved his music and was like, wow, this is so great. And that evening, I actually connected with someone that I knew going into the night. And because of us connecting and becoming closer friends, he had invited me to a New Year's party where I ended up meeting my last boyfriend. So pointing out multiple things there. Number one, didn't think that heavy before. I just decided last minute I would do it, even though it was clearly weighing on my head. And I think because it was weighing on my mind, I'm very on this carpe diem mentality. The founder of Tom's Shoes talked about it too, especially after he lost his best friend to an accident when he was younger. But it just really exemplifies how life is so short, and not to say you should make reckless decisions, but you should not let mental fears block you from doing something that outside of safety and everything. Like the only thing that's scaring you to maybe go to the nightclub is the fact that you're going by yourself and you're scared to look weird and you're scared to feel lonely and all that, but you love the artist, right? It's kind of like going to a Taylor Swift concert by yourself. If you love Taylor Swift, why not just go, right? So for me, that was the same thing. And I did it again, actually with the same artist, MK. He was in town 3 months later, did it again. I went by myself. And when I go to nightclubs, as a fun fact, I actually only drink water. I'm not really the biggest drinker at clubs. I really only like bougie cocktails and primarily like lemon drop martinis. That is so on brand for me. All my friends know this. So if I'm not going to have a actual worthwhile cocktail, I don't drink. And maybe that's just a maturity thing, or now that I'm older, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care to drink because for me, the drug, if you will, is the music itself. I love house music that much. And I share the story again, actually, because someone I recently spoke to one-on-one from this podcast community and listeners, she shared with me and actually asked me a question around whether she should basically do the same thing. And she's a lot younger. She's 21, and she shared like she also likes house music. There's this artist coming into town, and she knows like she probably won't be able to see that person again and all that. And I think when she shared the concept of doing so with someone, they had instilled a little bit of doubt in her because, of course, right, it's a little different. It's abnormal to do something like that by yourself, and it instilled some doubt. And then she asked me what my thoughts were. And I think this was probably around safety, which is, of course, I think a natural instinct to have when it comes to, should I do this? What if it's not safe, right? And my first question was, okay, well, how close is it to your home? Because for me, while that's not a big deal, I guess the proximity, Manhattan or Brooklyn, for me, it's very easy to just call an Uber right away once, before I head out of the venue, and I hop into the venue, and I don't often ever feel scared when I'm here in New York. And I think in most places, I've done this in London, Paris, like wherever, not often ever scared about safety or even being at a club by myself, because I think all the tiny things I've done leading up to it have enabled me to look and feel comfortable in the setting, right? Because I will say, if the first thing you're going to do by yourself is going to a nightclub and you start to feel uncomfortable because you're not used to being in a setting like that on your own, and then on top of that, you're concerned about safety, and someone sees that you look uncomfortable and they're not the greatest person ever, well, then that could be a concern, right? But if you're pretty comfortable with yourself, you know you're going to have a good time, and the only thing is like that external doubt that people have instilled in you, as long as you can, just check off the safety things, right? Like, so I asked this person, how far is the venue? Apparently it's only 5 minutes from her house, her apartment, or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, easy. That's an easy yes then, right? And then as long as whether you're driving or you're taking an Uber, as long as you like know exactly where that is, before you leave the venue as you're heading home, then I don't think there should be an issue. And like I said, I think as long as you as a person in all kinds of circumstances, you're always mindful about safety and making sure that you're aware of your surrounding, right? That you're not like nonchalant about it. I think you should be in good hands to do something. So, all that to say, I just want to wrap this solo episode up just by sharing some final thoughts. I think when people ask me about how I have come to live my life the way I do, whether people admire it or not, I think I've just always lived my life on my own terms. I think that's kind of the way I look at things. And the reason how I was able to design my life the way it is now, though, is because of this actual concept. Not waiting for other people to do those things with me. And to add a level to it, not waiting for other people to push me to do it, right? Or not waiting for other people to help me get there. That's both in business, when it came to business, or creating my agency. I had no idea what I was doing, but I just started. The moment I had the idea, I created the logo and the website in the same evening. And then within that week, I started pitching myself as an agency to businesses and that's the same thing with the experiences I've had. You might follow me on Instagram and you might see that I'm always, traveling a little bit, and I've, going to this event and going here and going here. As a content creator, even a lot of the collaborations or deals that I have, or like the restaurants I get to go to in New York for complimentary meals as a content creator, is because I, half the time, reached out on my own. I didn't wait for someone to come to me. I didn't wait for someone to come to me with a deal. I didn't wait for someone to give me the idea to do that anyways. I think one day I kept being the plus one for another content creator. And I was like, why am I the plus one? Why can't I just get these invites myself, right? Then I decided, why not just reach out to them myself and see how it goes? And so I think it's a rippling effect when you start to do things because you have interest and desire. There's a ripple effect in other areas of your life. You start to learn how to take initiative more and more or less be in the driver's seat of your life versus allowing things to happen and adjusting as it occurs, right? And I think that's an important lesson to take away, especially if you are in that stage of your life where you're trying to figure out how can you make a difference right now in your life. You feel a little stuck, maybe a little bit lost, maybe like you have some things going great and some things not so great. Figure out how you can take initiative in that area of your life and rewrite that story and write the future of that story. And again, I'm struggling all the time too. I don't have everything figured out, nor do I have everything set in stone. But I will say that building that muscle of just taking initiative with or without other people has been probably the biggest driver for me in curating the life I have today. And of course, I certainly love hearing when other people have that for themselves and when people start to develop that muscle and are able to tap into that to create a fulfilling life. And so I will leave you guys with that for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the topic. I hope you found a takeaway. It means the world when you guys actually share with me directly, either through DMs or on your Instagram story, and tagging at What Fulfills You and at Emily E. Duong when you enjoy the episode. And of course, share it with a friend, especially if you're in your 20s and you know that there's a girlfriend or a guy friend that could use this topic and use this in their headphones today during lunch break or on a walk, and you know this is going to be helpful for them. It would mean the world if you share the episode with them as well. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being courageous in wanting to create a fulfilling life for yourself. I'm so excited to be on this journey with you, and I will talk to you all in the next episode.